Hello and good morning to all joining us via Zoom and our Facebook live stream. Welcome to the Center for Enlightenment's exploration of the spiritual teachings, Jewels from Jane Elizabeth. Each Sunday will be a free-flowing adventure with teachings by Jane Elizabeth Hart, facilitated by certified Center for Enlightenment teachers. We are working from the self-study lesson found on our website at cfenlightenment.org. We continue with the self-study lesson titled God Consciousness. Our topic this morning is opening the door within you. Greg Barrett will be the facilitator for this lesson. Greg is a certified teacher for the Center for Enlightenment and a longtime student of Jane Hart, studying with her for over 35 years. Jane is the author of Spiritual Power Tools, Support for Your Soul, master teacher, and founder of the Center for Enlightenment. Today's course will be live streamed via Facebook. A recording will be sent out with a weekly reflection so you can access it anytime. In addition to the Sunday courses, there will be a question and answer discussion on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. The link for these sessions will also be posted in the chat room. We are active on Facebook and X. Come check us out, share your thoughts, reflections, and experiences. It would also be a great support to like the postings that resonate with you. We also invite you to visit our website at cfenlightenment.org. There you will find additional self-study lessons, talks, videos, or you can search for specific topics to support your expansion in consciousness. So let's just sit back, take a deep breath. Let's allow yourself to just move into the silence. Let's begin today's journey with the prescription for spiritual alignment.
Let's open up to that heart space that we feel right here. We are aligned with the presence of God within. We are protected by God's love, wisdom, knowledge, and grace. The God consciousness within helps us discover more about who we are. Thank you, God, for the gift of spiritual intuition. Thank you, God, for aligning our conscious, subconscious, and superconscious mind. We find our peace and our rest in our heart, and we are open and receptive. Amen. So here we are on a journey, and it's a journey of opening the door to a hidden potential that's within us. That door to the heart, that door to the infinite potential within us must be opened by us. And in this experience of opening the door to the infinite potential within us, we find two things going on. One is that we're getting pushed, and the other is that we're getting pulled. We're getting pulled in that we're being drawn by that energy, that light, that vibration that is, you can feel it pulling you when you look at nature, when you get quiet, when you breathe, when you just notice. And then you get pushed when you deal with the circumstances of life that you don't like, when you hit bottom, when you feel divine discomfort or divine discontent. So the process of moving through the door to our hidden potential is energized, is empowered by being pulled by that magnetic energy, vibration, and light, and being pushed by the divine discontent and discomfort that comes from grappling with our own subconscious issues. But there's a third part. There's being pushed, there's being pulled, and there's also opening the door. To move through the door, it's got to be open, but it gets opened in little increments. The video we're going to watch, Jane uses this analogy of the open door, and she is very poetic in how she does it. It's a very clear visualization, but I want to just give us a feeling of it as well. The doorway that leads you to God consciousness. That doorway is here. It's not something far away. It's not something we attain. It's who we are inside. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be open. Knock and the door will be opened. And that means with persistence, consistency, not intensity, as my friend says, we open that door just a little bit each day through our practices, through taking our will to back up the commitment we have to the desire of our heart. What's on the other side of that door? Well, Jane says that that other side of the door is God consciousness. Jane says that her whole motive operation, the whole MO that she has, is to move us into that next stage of development, which is on the other side of that door. How do we get to that other side of the door? There are other things that are available to us. There are pleasures and there are things that we want to avert. We're dealing with a third dimensional life. But on the other side of that door is the fourth dimensional reality. She says actually all the dimensional realities. But the next dimension that we're going to be dealing with as human beings growing into a spiritual experience is the fourth dimensional reality. And so you are here because you set this into motion. You are here because you desired it. You are watching this video because there's a part of you that resonates with this. And you've already defined yourself as one who is moving through that door. Now, you can move through that door on a consistent basis, day by day. You can engage with this. You can slow it down. You can run away from it. But you have set it into motion. There are other pastimes, there are other sights and sounds and alluring things in the world that we experience that distract us, that want to take our attention. The world is flooded with these things, but you made the choice somewhere within your being to take this next step. Jane said, I wanted to know my God self about who I am, and I wanted to go on my spiritual journey. In the video, she talks about how she implemented this awakening to the process of opening the door. And you have done the same thing. That first step has already been accomplished because that first step is desire. And the one thing she says is she shows you the visual. She has a painting that she's going to show you in the video, is that the door is only open a little bit. The light's coming through, but the reason why the door is only opened a little bit is because that door to the higher potential must be opened gradually, step by step, a little bit at a time. She asks, why didn't it open all the way? I wanted to just burst through. Well, the truth is that that is impossible for us to grasp or handle. We're given little glimpses. We're given that those enticements. She calls it the seduction of the spiritual, where we get drawn into that moving through the door, through those wonderful spiritual experiences, the feelings of well-being and peace and bliss and the wonderful synchronistic outcomes that seem to work out so beautifully. We get all those things to entice us, to seduce us to walk through that door. They're called peak experiences, and they are very important. Sometimes we're lifted from wherever we are on the journey up the mountain to a higher place where we can look down and we think, oh my gosh. Sometimes we think, I know I've thought when I've had a peak experience, wow, I've made it. I've made it. I got it all figured out. And of course, it's just being given to us so that we'll come back down to where we are in consciousness and do the work. And we're motivated to do the work day by day. That God energy, that God light, and that God vibration is so intense in a peak experience. This magnetic consciousness that's drawing us forward is something that entices us. As Jane says, it seduces us. But we also find that same energy has another activity, which is getting behind us and pushing us. Now, the magnetic drawing is in the form of all those carrots, those little dangling carrots that entice us. I remember being at the age of 10 on a summer camp experience where we hiked to an overlook, and I had never experienced anything like that in my life. I was looking out on the lake, and while everybody else was running around doing things, I just could only sit in the grass and just stare. And I was filled with a sense of overwhelming awe and wonder. This is that drawing us forward. We've had those experiences holding that baby. I think about how you've been enticed, seduced to open up to more of this, but then also think about those pushes that come from behind, that divine discomfort, that hitting bottom, that part of you that says, along with Jane, I want out of this third dimensional world. This world is not satisfying me. I didn't like the outcome of this political situation. I don't like what's going on in these countries in the world. I don't like the circumstances with my relatives, my friends, my job, my finances, whatever it is. The stock market goes up, the stock market goes down. All these things are happening, and they are putting us in a position where we cannot put our treasures in the third dimension, in the world, as Jesus said. It's really the third dimension. When he says world, he means third dimension. The third dimension is the realm of the opposites. There are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be people who disappoint us. There are going to be things that we like, but we get pushed by the discontent and the discomfort that comes when we're stepping forward and trying to move through this door. And it actually pushes us. And now you're finding that both the magnetic pulling and that divine discontent pushing is drawing you forward, is moving you forward into a deeper and more revealing understanding of who you are. This movement in consciousness that's happening in you must happen while you're in body. It must happen while you're in form. We idealize in religion and also in advanced spiritual teachings, seemingly, the life after death experience because there is a real spiritual aspect to it. But you can't do this work, the real work of awakening, over on the other side. It has to be done in form. That's just the way it's set up. And this movement in consciousness draws us and moves us from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime in successive steps. Sometimes it looks like, two steps forward and one step backward. Maybe we had a life as a priest, and we were so religious, but then when we died, we realized that our rigid, dogmatic view of life didn't give us what we wanted. So the next life, we're a courtesan or a merchant. We experience all of these different experiences in order to move us from lifetime to lifetime to the place where we are right now, where you have made a decision to move into the next dimension of your being. This is probably the first lifetime in which you've consciously chosen to walk on this path. Now, you've been moving on this path, pulled and pushed, but the conscious awareness of what's really going on hadn't probably reached you. You had little glimmers. Earlier in your life, the same thing is true, but now you are ready. And what you're seeing beyond this opening door to higher consciousness is light, is energy, is vibration. And Jane in the video talks about why it doesn't just all burst open at once. As much as she wanted it, she intuited that she'd be like a blind person who was given all the sight at once, and the light would be overwhelming the understanding. You have to understand what you're seeing just a little at a time. You have to understand this aspect of it and then process it and then own it. This is true for any growth in consciousness. This next step through the open door is disorienting. It can seem overwhelming. It can even seem frightening. But if we take it just a little at a time, one day at a time, we'll find that it is manageable because we can own it, we can process it, and we can understand it. Early on, I remember Jane talking about that she had early on an experience of moving into what she called the room of all possibilities. And she was actually, because she was so impatient, she was actually shown and experienced this awesome, overwhelming next stage of development, and it was too much for her. And she was shown this so that she could just chill herself a little bit, just chill, just cool her jets a little bit, and take it. Don't stop, but take it a little at a time. Again, as my friend says, it's consistency, not intensity. You can't take this in all at once. So, what are you doing today? What are you doing each day to take the steps you need to take slowly but surely to open that door a little in successive pushes each day with the successive lessons that come for you that, again, from the pushing standpoint, show up as headlines and bad news and not, diagnosis, medical. Something's going on in your life that's pushing you. And each day, what are you doing to nurture the pulling part? The spiritual light, energy, and vibration through meditation, through uh, the observer self, and becoming aware of that heightened awareness. And you've got to digest each revelation, each lifting of the veil in turn. James uses two analogies in this video, opening the door and also lifting the veil. It's the same thing. And it's about taking a step, opening it up, lifting a veil, however you want to look at it, but you've got to own it. You got to own that step and then make it your own. And the first thing that comes up for a lot of us, it certainly has for me, is, oh, this is too hard. This is too difficult. People leave this path because it seems so overwhelming. But we've got tools. We have tools. We have the Spiritual Power Tools book, which you can download from the Center for Enlightenment website or buy on Amazon. That wonderful book that Jane put together of the basic tools that she used to open up and enlighten her own consciousness. Also, we've got the self-study lessons. This week's lesson is on God consciousness, which is the last in the self-study lessons. But go online and look on the website, look at self-study lessons, and take these in turn if you haven't already done so. We've got many step-by-step processes that will help you and support you on your journey. Jane says, you are spiritually ready to open the spiritual door within you. You are spiritually ready, but what are you doing about it? What are you doing with all of these tools that you're being exposed to? What are you doing with the opportunities that each day is bringing you? Think about it. Think about the pulls that happen, those wonderful carrots, those wonderful enticements, the divine seduction. What are you doing with those? Are you just saying, oh, I just want to be blissed out and have a wonderful high? That's not what they're there for. They're there to motivate you to do the work. What are you doing about the pushes, the things that you don't like, the bad news that will inevitably come because you live in the opposites? There can be something you don't like. Into each life, a little rain must fall. But the difference is when the rain falls, do I look at it and just go, oh, it's rain and grab an umbrella? Or do I go, oh, it's depressing. Oh, poor me. This is so unfair. Oh, I hate it. I hate these kinds of days. Well, it's up to me. You're going to have sunny days. You're going to have rainy days. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs. But you are using all of these things now. You're having an opportunity to move yourself through life. Jane says, my job is to help you to open each door a little more and see what it is and how it operates in your consciousness, to see each successive stage, moving from the finite consciousness into the infinite consciousness. She's talking about moving from the third dimensional consciousness into the fourth dimensional consciousness. And you are ready to walk through this door. And Jane says to you, what do you do with it? How do you use it wisely? Whatever this revelation, whatever this veil that's being lifted, karmic information is being given to you. She talks about the Akashic records, which is very it could be an off-putting term, but really it's talking about the karmic information of the makeup of your soul, mostly about what went on in past lives. You are being trained to understand and to use what you learn about who you are. You are being taught these things, and you're being taught on the inner planes. Don't think that when you fall asleep at night, you're just having dreams and resting. You are being taught on the inner planes. So have you ever, um, maybe you experienced it with these videos or with these teachings? Have you ever had the experience of um, recognizing, just feeling, oh, I've heard this before. I know this, and you don't remember it from a book? Well, at night, you are taught. There's a curriculum. And on the other side, we get this teaching, which we bring into this physical plane in our waking life that we then implement. Jane talked about how when she was exposed finally, after many years on this path, to certain spiritual teachings, and they were what she'd always known, she realized that she'd been taught these things before while she was in that sleep state. Once you awaken to this God consciousness, little by little, you begin to understand that there are many unfoldments in many stages, but you don't get to experience them until you begin the movement, walking through this door. And we have to we just take it as it comes. We don't get ahead of ourselves. I've taught classes in places where people want to talk about, all this lofty stuff. Oh, I want to know about the eighth dimension. I want to know about this or that. Don't just talk to me about taking my next step. Well, that actually stops our or slows down our progress. Take it each day as it comes. And then ask yourself, am I really willing to walk through this door? The student has to decide whether they're willing to implement what they see. You see it, now are you going to own it? Are you going to process it? Is it just here for entertainment value? That's true for a lot of people, and I'm not going to judge it, but a lot of folks, this for many people, this spiritual teaching stuff is just there for entertainment value. It's there instead of a video on sports or on travel or on this or on that. Well, the question is, what's important to you? Where are your values? And what is your heart's true desire? And that heart's true desire is what is opening up in you in this moment. And then when you get in touch with what that desire is, how strong is your commitment? How strong is the commitment to uncover the truth of your being? In the video, Jane talks about the little seductions that God gives us to go further, to have a desire strengthened and a commitment strengthened to move through that door and then to open another door, to open it wider. She says there are many veils that have to be lifted in this process. The veil is being lifted for each one of us. And then we have to digest that, understand it, own it, and then move on to the next step, because there are infinite successive stages and steps in this process of unfoldment. And Jane talks about this in her journey. I've experienced it. You have this experience of moving into another step. You own it, you understand it. And the first thing that sometimes comes up is, well, I've made it. This is great. I've been climbing up the mountain. I've reached the ledge, and I'm just going to camp here and park here. Well, it's good to appreciate and understand and fully digest and experience whatever that veil that has been lifted, whatever that new light is in your life. But then you've got to implement it, put it to work, and it'll be tested too. When you get a lesson, every time you get a lesson on the spiritual journey that opens you up, what you find is that it opens you up to tests that, okay, do you really understand it? It's just like in school. It's not enough just to learn the thing in a book, but you've then going to have to be tested and see if you can implement it. And it's humbling sometimes to see, oh my gosh, what I thought was true is not fully true. There's more to it than this. There's more to my spiritual journey than what I thought it was. Whether we're speaking of veils or successive pushes to open doors, the truth is that we have to let go of what we thought in the last experience was true. Each successive push, each successive opening makes us realize how different the actual truth is than what we assumed to be true. We've got to let go of our cherished assumptions. And that's why it's so often so intimidating and overwhelming and off putting sometimes, and even scary to move into this new room, this new light, this new experience, because all of this process that occurs within us is opening us up to things where we have to let go of what we thought God was, what we thought spirituality was, what was familiar to us, and realize that it doesn't happen out here. This is an inner door. It doesn't happen out in the world. We're not going to join some club or some school where we're going to go through a course curriculum. Those things are all good, but it ultimately has to be owned from within our being. So, first, do you want to move through the door? And second, do you want to keep moving forward day by day? Will you find that it's just a little bit too scary? Will it be a disappointment to me? Will I find out that this isn't what I signed on for? I've said that so many times, and I've heard my friends say this on the spiritual path. This isn't what I thought I signed on for. Well, get over it. Let go of what you thought it was. And it's very humbling. It's very humbling when you realize, oh my gosh, it's not what I thought it was. Jane, as a spiritual teacher, she didn't act like a spiritual teacher. She's very, she blows up your illusions sometimes. What if my next step is different than what I thought it was going to be? Guaranteed it's going to, and it's going to challenge you. And you've got to become humble enough, teachable enough to let go of what you thought things were going to be. I thought I could use my spirituality to validate my ego, to make me more special, to make me better than other people, to make me superior and more important. I really unconsciously, if you'd asked me, I probably would not have admitted to it, but that was really there. That was my MO. And I also thought it would help me to fit in better with people. Well, you do learn to blend energies and you're able to navigate your life better, but it's none of those things. What it is reveals itself to you day by day. You may ask yourself, will it contradict my most cherished beliefs, my religious training, my standards of what I thought good was, my rigid, uh, wonky, uh, primitive view of what good is, or what high standards are, or what the righteous spiritual life is? Yeah, that's why Jesus talked about the prodigal son. That parable is about the guy who, he thinks he's got it all, and actually he's got to let go of it when he finds his brother comes back and is accepted, even if he did the things that were just the wrong thing, but they brought him to the right place. You've got to let go of all that stuff. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. Sit at the end of the table, not the head of the table. Let go of your cherished assumptions and beliefs, your own opinions about what's right, what's wrong. Do you really want to go through that door? Jane says that. Do you want to go through this door? I am asking you this. Do you want to go through that door? You're going to let go of all your most limited understandings and your most cherished assumptions and beliefs, because it's always going to be different and more than what you had in mind. This is a process of opening up your consciousness to become more gradually aware of the truth of your being. And this includes accessing your past life information. You may not remember your past lives directly, but the patterns that you brought with you into this life, you will access, and you are accessing each day. You're just becoming aware of it in your observer self and saying, there's this pattern within me, there's this impulse within me, there's this habit, this behavior, and all of these things are things we brought with us. That desire must be strong. But as Jane says, your desire will be tested, mark my words. And it will be tested. Why? Because you need to understand yourself at the very depths of your being and own it. You may find that political figure, that world leader that behaves a way you didn't like, really reminds you deep down of somebody that you were hundreds of years ago. Or you have a very strong sense of justice, but find out that you were the person who was behaving in an unjust way in another lifetime. I mean, it's challenging to think that perhaps you were a slaveholder. Perhaps you were the person who oppressed other people. And in this life, your sense of justice comes from wanting to balance that out, but you've also got to forgive yourself and not get self-righteous about it and forgive it all, because it's all about forgiveness in the end. It's all about forgiveness. This is moving forward, each one of us. And Jane said at one point, she said, I'd rather be blind than know than what my soul had been doing all those lifetimes. But you've got to have the drive and the courage to face these things, because that's all water under the bridge. You can forgive it. You can let it go. You don't have to hold on to it. And it's not, it doesn't define who you are right now. We've all done these things. Every one of us is equally, quote, guilty, but it's not guilt. Each one of us have the same amount of issues to forgive, even whether they seem to be a saint or a sinner, whoever they are. We've all gone through these experiences. You have to have the courage and the drive to do your forgiveness work. You are entering a beautiful door that's opening step by step into a new realm of possibility. We're going to watch this video with this wonderful, intense image. It's very vivid, of moving this door more and more open into the potential of our fourth dimensional consciousness, our God consciousness. Let's watch it together.
Hi there, here we go again. How do you like my picture? Knock and the door will be opened. We've all heard that. That's something that Jesus talked about a lot. Knock and the door will be opened. So let me open the door for you. My plan today is to open this door a little wider so that you can see beyond the door. That's where I'm taking you. That's where I want you to go, beyond the door. Knock and the door will be opened. Well, you did knock. You knocked and said, I want to know more about my God self. I want to know more about who I am. I want to go on my spiritual journey and discover more about who I am. Oh, okay. You knocked on the door, and the door was open. Do you notice it's only open a little bit? Why didn't it open all the way so that you could see everything? Everything. With one knock, you could look and see everything. I'll tell you why you couldn't and why it's important that the door opens slowly but surely. Because you knocked on the door was open. And you got a little peek of the God energy, God light, God vibration. It's coming in here. The God light, God vibration. It's vital, it pushes us, and we have to walk through it. We have to say, okay, I'm out of the third dimensional world. I want out of this third dimensional world. It's beautiful. There's lots of beautiful trees, and there is a little lake. And boy, I bet you've enjoyed that little lake a lot throughout your many incarnations. But now, you are stepping beyond the lake. You are going into something deeper and more revealing while you're in consciousness this lifetime. Opening the door slowly but surely. As you can see, I've got a little bit here. We're going to open it up a little bit, and we're going to look inside and see what's there. What is beyond this door? You couldn't comprehend it all. I liken this to the blind man who says, I want to have sight. And some magnificent thing happened, and he got his sight back. But he'd been blind his whole life. Now all of a sudden, the light is blinding him. Now the light is blinding him because he has to refocus. He has to look at all this light and refocus himself. All this time he felt a table. Here's a table. Okay, this is a table. And now all of a sudden I can see the table? Well, that's not what I imagined. That's pretty scary. So if you suddenly became aware of all that's behind the door, you would be so scared you'd run out and never go back to it because it's vast. It has many dimensions to it. It has many little rooms to that door. Many, many places to go. And you're like the blind person that wants to go through and see everything and understand everything in one swell swoop. So the blind man says, please show me everything. I want to see everything. Wow. You realize how difficult that would be to suddenly be able to see everything? You'd have to go slowly but surely. Someone would have to take your hand and say, now look, this is a table. I want you to feel it. Remember how you thought about the table when you were blind. Now I want you to think about it differently. You say, but look at all the different sizes of tables in here. There's a curvy table, and there's an oblong table, and there's a square table. Oh my God, and there's pink tables and yellow tables and orange tables, and I haven't even learned all the colors of all the things that are in this room. And I would rather be blind. Because it's too hard. It's too difficult. Oh my God, how am I going to comprehend all this? You'd have to go to a school. You'd have to go someplace where somebody would slowly but surely take your hand and move you through the different processes to understand what a chair was, what a body was, what an ear is. You didn't ever look at one. What blue eyes are, what black hair is. It was just a word to you, and you had never seen color, so you had to image whatever could be imaged on that level. Well, you are spiritually ready to open the door. Open the spiritual door within you. But it can't be flung open and see everything at the same time, any more than the blind man can be flung open and see everything at the same time. You would just run from it, say, oh my God, I'm in the room of all possibilities. How does one ever decipher all the things in this room? I'm in the room where all karma is kept. Whew, wow, what do I do in the Akashic records? I see records and records and records and records, and oh my God, what do I do with all these records? You mean these are accessible to me? All these records? Well, who cares? Why would I even be interested in looking at that? Why is that valuable to me? And you would go around and you'd look at all the things in the different rooms of the higher consciousness. And you would be overwhelmed with it. So, my job, as I see it, is to help you to open each little door, understand what it is, and how it operates in this higher consciousness. Remember, a few weeks ago, I talked about infinite consciousness and finite consciousness. And when you walk through this door, you are leaving your finite consciousness down here in the third dimension, because this is the third dimension. This is the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, the higher dimensions. I'm going to put it that way, higher dimensions. This is the third, this is higher dimensions. Now you are ready to walk in this door. And you are only this big walking through this door. So this little tiny thing is walking in this vast door. Look how big the door is and how little you are. Now, You have to have some understanding of this new light that's coming in, and what do you do with it? How do you use the light wisely? How do you use the karmic records wisely? How do you use the world of possibilities wisely? You have to be trained to do it. Trained to understand where you are, because ultimately you are going to be the master. You are going to know what the masters know, what the hierarchy knows, call it what you will, infinite intelligence knows. And I want to go on record right now, is there's many aspects to God, many aspects to God too. So once you come into the God consciousness and the God awareness, and you will understand I am one with God and God is one with me, then there's another whole school you're in to understand what that is. Because you are no longer on the karmic law, you're on the law of ascension that overrules the karmic law. But you don't get there until you walk through this door and learn all the things that are on the other side of this door. And that's where the rub comes. That's where the student has to decide, am I really wanting to walk through that door? Or do I want to just tiptoe a few tiptoes and look, see what do I see here? What's there? Is it interesting enough to me? Maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. But you have an opportunity to peek into the door. See the light. And many of you have had experiences in the light. Those are the little, I call, seductions that God gives us to go further. You see a little bit and you want to get more. You want to understand more. And because desires are so much a part of who you are, and it's part of the evolution of your soul, you have to desire to go through that door. And then once you get in the door, you have to desire to open another door. So there's many doors that you're going to have to open. A lot of the great mystics call it veils. The veils are lifted. Before you go through the veil, you have to conquer the veil you have just lifted prior to the new veil that's going to be lifted. It's veils, or the door opening, slowly but surely. As you can see, the door can open slow but sure. But you are the one that makes the decision. Do you want to go through that door? And then once you're through the door, do you want to stay moving in God consciousness, or is it too scary or too out of sync or out of what you think is right, wrong, and how you've seen the world up to this moment? Because the way you've seen this world is through your karmic eyes. It's through the illusion that you built within yourself and the karma you are playing in. So, with that said, do you really want to go through the door? I'm asking you, do you want to go through the door? And I'm going to tell you, there's many doors you have to go through. Once you conquer one door, like the blind man, this is the table. Feel it. Does it feel like what you thought it was going to be? Oh no, it didn't feel like what I thought it was going to be. Okay, you got to get rid of the old idea that you had in your head as a blind person to see something different about the table that you didn't see before. So it's a process that you are learning, and you're opening up your consciousness to learn more and to be more consciously aware of the different things in this little room that you've just walked into. Let's Call it the karmic records. Aha, you've walked into the karmic records. Okay, what does that mean? You have access to your karma. That's pretty fabulous. Up till now, you've been blinded. You didn't know anything about karma. Oh, you may have heard something about it, but you never ever asked the question, I want to know my karma. If I'm a soul evolving, I must have a huge karmic history. I want through that door. I want to understand it. Open the door for me. You have to have that kind of push and drive. Open that door for me now so that I can see where I have been, so that I can conquer my whole self in God. That's my desire. But you will be tested on that desire. Mark my words. Because you can't go too far in the room of Akashic Records, because you're going to find out things about yourself that maybe you wish you didn't find out. And then what do you do with it? Then the door is opened a little wider. And you can just say, oh, I love where I'm at. I don't want to go any further. I don't want to see anything more. Oh my God, I can't believe that I was an Indian that was out killing white people. Oh, I don't like that part of me. I can't believe I did something that stupid. Oh, I'd rather be blind than know what my soul has been doing. So you have to have that ambition and the fearlessness to look at those things and to deal with them, do your forgiveness work so that a new opportunity will be able to come forth for you.
The God consciousness is changing you at depth as you open this door, little by little. It has to open gradually and slowly because it's a process of making all of this experience, a spiritual experience, a part of you. And that light behind that door can be challenging, but it takes courage to face it and to move into this new consciousness. And we're going to support each other in moving into this new consciousness together on Thursday night in our question and answer support group at 7 p.m. Eastern. The link is in your chat room or on the website. And that's where we will support each other in taking these steps. There's also a link in the chat room and on the website for donating to the Center for Enlightenment so that we can continue to do this work in service to humanity. So this week, watch the door open just a little more each day. Consistency, moving with it day by day. Bye for now.